Hey everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. My name is Kara and I am cleaning my epic garlic harvest. I am so pleased with the garlic harvest this year. I harvested it about a week ago and I have slowly been working through cleaning all of it. I've got the ones that I've cleaned on a screen that I will show you in just a minute. And right now I am working on an impromptu table. We have been redoing our shed, which is finally almost done, thank goodness. But we have the old door. So I just put this old door up under my covered patio, spread out some of the garlic so that it could at least start drying while I cleaned it, and then I can move it over to the screens. And sometimes you just have to improvise with what you have. So that is what I'm working with right now. But I finally have a tally of how many varieties I actually planted. I planted so many different varieties of garlic that I lost count of how many. I was thinking as I harvested them it was 5 or 6, but it actually was 8 varieties, 7 of which came from Keene Garlic Farm, which so far is my favorite garlic supplier. They ship on time, they give you very clean bulbs. I've never had an issue with diseases or quality, and they also give you quite a few little brochures with educational resources so that you know how to prep it, how to grow it, and when to harvest it. I would really recommend that company if you haven't tried them before and you're looking for a source for seed garlic. They are taking fall pre-orders right now, so if you have a specific variety in mind that you really want, I would suggest getting your order in soon before they're out of stock. Those are the shallots, and I've got onions in this next box over, and I've got the garlic up above. And my covered patio has basically turned into my onion and shallot and garlic curing workshop here. It's pretty crazy. I've got a video coming up about the shallots and also the toy onions, but I just wanted to show you how many I've got. And I did have to end up putting them onto the cardboard down here because I just ran out of room. I just did not have enough screens. You know that garlic is ready to harvest based upon some signs that you see rather than the number of days from planting. So it's going to be roughly 6 to 7 months. For me, it was 7 months, but that can vary every year based upon weather and temperature. So those are the things that are going to cue your garlic to start developing the bulb, and that is day length and temperature. So based upon when those things happen in the right combination, then your garlic is going to get the message that it needs to start forming that bulb. And there are some signs that you want to look for that. And those are the browning of the leaves. Once you get 1/3 to 1/2 of your leaves brown on the bottom and still green on the top, then you know the time is near. I like to peek at the shoulders of the garlic just to make sure, so I will dig down around the shoulders carefully not to disturb the roots. And if I can see that the garlic has, kind of bulked up like this, and you can kind of feel around the top, you can feel that those cloves are forming. So once I see the color change in the leaves, and also I take a peek at the garlic shoulders, then I cut the water, and I do that for a week or 2 before I want to harvest it. And that's because water with mature garlic bulbs is a bad mix. You don't want to promote any rot as it sits in the soil and is wet. So those are the things that are really important to look for. Once you know that it's time to harvest your garlic, you want to do that with a pitchfork. This year, like I said in a short that I released a couple weeks ago, I used a hand trowel because my pitchfork broke and I had not replaced it yet. But the pitchfork is a really good tool if you have a lot of garlic to harvest, because you can gently lift it up out of the soil without harming the bulb or damaging the bulb. You don't want to nick the bulb or rip the root plate out, because that garlic needs to be whole and intact so that it can store for a long time in your cupboard or your pantry or wherever you're going to store it. So you don't want to have any damage to that bulb. Now that we have our garlic out of the ground, let's talk about how you're going to process your garlic so that it can store for the maximum amount of time. And for that, I'm going to show you my setup, which is really similar to my onion setup. Once you've harvested your garlic, you need to put it in a shady location so that it can cure. And that just means dry out completely so that it's ready to store with no moisture left in the leaves and the roots or anything like that, because that is going to hold bacteria and promote mold growth. And you don't want that. So what I do is I take my garlic to a shady location. I used to use the dappled shade of a tree, but now I have a covered patio that works really well. I actually have a ceiling fan right above me, and that really helps to circulate the air. If you have a covered patio or some place that is cool, then that would be a really good location. Right now, this is obviously just ambient temperature out here, and it seems to be doing okay. I haven't had any problems with it. It gets no direct hot sun. It gets a little bit of sun in the morning, but it's not hot sun. And then as soon as that sun moves overhead around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, then it's completely in the shade for the rest of the day. And I've got a lot of good air movement back here. I just like the setup a lot better because it's easier to manage. I've got a fenced in patio with a gate. So of course, squirrels and mice and rats and things like that could get in, but I haven't had any problem with them bothering any of my garlic or my onions or my shallots. So this seems like a pretty safe location. Generally speaking, rodents don't really bother these kinds of plants because they're very strong and stinky, and it's just not their thing. Thank goodness. So we don't have to worry about that. There's no green left on the tops here at all. So I'm going to show you how I trim. It is time to trim this garlic so that you end up with this nice clean bulb like that. And it's easier to store, it's not as messy, and you're not going to have as much likelihood of any kind of fungus or mold getting into your garlic as you store it for the winter. Once your garlic is out of the ground, you want to cure it, and this is my setup, which is identical to my onion curing setup, and that is some sawhorses. They're just inexpensive ones, and I have some old window screens right here, and then I just spread it out. Now this has already been cleaned, so I've already trimmed the tops because they were dry, and I trimmed the bottoms, so these are just kind of waiting for the final drying process, and then I'm going to package them up. When I harvested the garlic, I spread it out on screens just like this. You can also use a table or a sheet of cardboard. Just make sure that they're spread out evenly and that they're not touching, because you want the tops to dry really well before you move on to the next step. There is no fancy equipment you need for this. I'm just using a pair of scissors, and that is it. Your garlic is going to look like this, and here is the long, kind of papery, dried out stem here. And all I'm going to do is trim this stem, and I'll do that now so you can see exactly how I do it. So I will just cut that, and then I've got about 1 inch right here. And you can see in the top here, there is only brown. There's no green here at all. And then for the bottoms, I just like to brush off any excess dirt that there may be, just like with the onions. And I will also trim those, and I will trim those to about 1 inch as well. I don't want to trim too closely because I don't want to nick this. I want this to remain sealed and undamaged so that it can store really well for the winter. And that is as easy as it gets. Now you can get fancy and you can braid these, but I don't have time for that. So I have actually saved these old mesh bags. I think oranges came in these. I've got probably 10 of these bags, and these work really well. And I will just stick the garlic in here and fill them up once they're completely dry, and then I can hang them in my pantry or in a closet, someplace where it's going to be cool and dark and dry, and then I will just use them throughout the winter. I had some of my garlic that had a lot of dirt still stuck on the outside, so here is what I do. I've got myself a clean like scouring pad, and this is really nice because it will help me just kind of rub off those outside papery parts, and then I'm left with a really nice clean head of garlic. And it did not cut through the outer paper, it just took off that surface layer, and now it's a really nice head of garlic. So I'll just snip that off, and that's it. If you've got any garlic that's a little bit messy like this, just take that little scouring pad and do that. I was just using my hands and like scraping it, but your hands are gonna get really sore. Like underneath my fingernails where I was kind of picking at it a little bit was getting really sore, and that is so much faster. I have got so much garlic here to clean. I wanted to try to get it all clean and packaged up so that I could take it inside before I leave for a couple weeks. The onions, I'm just gonna have to leave out here, and hopefully they'll be fine. I'm gonna keep the fan running, and hopefully in the shade they'll be okay and safe, and by the time I get back, they will be ready to take inside and store. Now, as far as timing goes, usually this process for garlic also takes 2 to 4 weeks, just like onions, but you need to kind of check on it, pretty often, just to see what the state of the garlic is in. If it's green, if you push on the neck at all and you feel any kind of moisture, or it still feels like there's quite a bit of material in there that is not dry, then give it a little bit more time. But 2 to 4 weeks is probably about right. I want to talk about all of the different varieties of garlic that I tried this year. So all of my garlic varieties were soft neck. Soft neck varieties of garlic do best in warm southern regions like southern Arizona. You could try a hard neck, but generally those do much better in cooler regions. So that's why all of the garlic that I tried was soft neck. I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen so that you can see all of the different varieties that I tried, and then I am going to let you know which ones did the very best. What I'm looking at is not the number of garlic bulbs produced. I planted 1 clove and I got a head of garlic. I had different amounts of each variety, and that's because that's just what was available. So there were some that I planted a lot more of than others. So I'm not going for amount when it comes to what I think was the most successful. What I'm going for is, how did the garlic bulbs form? Were they pretty big in size? Were they puny? Did they have really nice cloves on them? So that's what I'm looking for. And so that is what I'm going to be doing as I'm cleaning the garlic. And then I've got my labels here that I used for planting in my bed. So as I was harvesting these, I just brought the label with me and I put them all into piles based upon the variety that they are. So I want to get all of these cleaned so that I can really look at what I got for each variety, and then I'm going to share with you which ones did the best for me. Those are the ones that I'm definitely going to be ordering for this fall, and those are the ones that I would recommend that you order as well if you live in the Southwest, because I really think that those are probably going to do the best for you. Now, this list is not extensive. I did not try every soft neck garlic there is, of course. I tried 8, and 7 of which came from Keen Garlic Farm. One of them came from Native Seed Search. I'm just going to list all of them, and I will note where each of them came from so that you know where to find them. All right, so let's get started. I keep a bucket or a box right here. So I get my stool, I have my bucket or my box. That's because I am gonna save all of these tops. So just like everything else in the garden, whatever comes out of the soil, I try to put back into the soil. So I'm just gonna use these papery tops just to throw on top of the soil, kind of as a little bit of a mulch, like you would use straw. And it works really well, and I don't like to waste anything, and I definitely don't like to have to buy anything that I don't have to, because money does not grow on trees. As I'm cleaning, I'm just gonna cut the tops off, try to get that into the box or the bucket, and then when that gets full, I will walk that outside, and I've just been dumping them in piles at the end of the row where I'm planting my corn, and that is going to be my mulch, at least in the beginning, for my corn. These are free, so that is what I'm using. The results are that the early Italian softneck gave me some really nicely sized bulbs. Just overall, most of them sized up really well, and they've got really big cloves. My next pick is the Enchilium Red. So this gave me some pretty massive garlic bulbs too. Really big cloves on this. I wanted to show you. This is the size of just 1 clove, so that is huge. So most of those did really well, just overall. I had a few small ones, but for the most part, they were all really nicely sized too. Now, I didn't buy very much of this, but this is the California White, And this one was really nice too. Really big bulbs, really big cloves. So I think I will try planting more of that next year. And then an honorable mention is the Lourdes Italian. This one was really nice too, but there was more variability in the size of each of the heads of garlic. So I did get some that were a lot smaller than the others. So this one is not my top pick, but definitely an honorable mention. As a comparison, this is really nice garlic. This is what you want. And this is what my Purple Queen garlic did. That does not look like good eats at all, does it? A lot of them came up like this. The wrapper or the skin is gone off of it, and these are basically bare garlic cloves. Now, I've tried to eat a few of them and they seem like they're okay, but these would have to be eaten right away and washed really well. Really, the best one that I got looked like this. So you can see some of the skins are still on, but these just didn't really perform very well. The cloves are very small compared with some of the other varieties. I'll unwrap one of the other varieties for you so that you can see what it looks like. But yeah, this one just didn't work out. So for whatever reason, sometimes things just don't work, but it doesn't mean you're a bad gardener or that you did anything bad. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. All right, I hope this helps you with knowing when to harvest, how to cure, how to trim, and also how to store your garlic. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kara from Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.